For us, we don't fear our military, but in the 18th century Americans, they did fear a professional army. Why?
Well, of course, what is truly astonishing when you try and compare their world to our world is we have the most powerful standing army in the world. They were quite afraid of a standing army, although Washington and those who fought in the American Revolution came to realize you could not defend America without a professional army. So the Americans start out with this very romantic notion of the militia because it fits with this idea of the citizen soldier, fits with this suspicion of centralized government. In the world they had grown up with before the French and Indian War, militias could pretty much handle most of the responsibilities, put down slave rebellions, deal with intermittent kinds of warfare along the frontier with Indians, but not a sustained European-style land campaign. And of course, what they find first in the French and Indian War and then later in the American Revolution is the militia has certain things that it's very good at. It's very good at these sort of hit-and-run kinds of things. It's very good at harassing people deep into enemy territory, so to speak, so that the British are constantly worried about their lines of support because there's militias throughout America. They can't just assume the area is pacified if they've secured the major towns or seaport cities. So the militia is important in the American Revolution, but Washington in particular and people like Henry Knox come to realize we must, unfortunately, have a kind of European-style army. And we now have the most powerful military force in the world. Someone told me that American military spending is probably more than the next maybe 15 or 20 industrialized nations put together. We should maybe check that fact. But there's no question we spend more on our military than any industrialized nation in the world.
So why did the people fear it?
Well, I think the people fear it because they are familiar with English history. They're familiar with King Charles raising an army and Parliament raising its own army. So the English Civil War experience is very, very well known to them. They're also worried that in 1688, that great moment where England finally asserts the supremacy of Parliament, they pass a Declaration of Rights, including a right related to arms. That, again, you had a king who was trying to raise foreign forces, trying to raise religious sectarianism and appoint officers in the army who had one particular religious faith as opposed to another. In this case, it was Catholic instead of Protestant. And so they grow up with this idea that if you have a professional military and you have a strong executive, and in England you had a monarch, that was a very dangerous combination. So they grow up with this preference ideologically for a militia over a standing army. The problem is the facts on the ground are quite different when they actually have to fight a war.